It's such a privilege, like having someone, first of all, trust you, no matter what's happened in the past, no matter what trauma someone's experienced, that their lives can be better. And to be able to witness that is really powerful.
So much excitement about the launch of your app, Contain Your Brain.
When you're wanting someone to go on kind of a path towards positive change, the most important thing is for them to feel safe. We actually just want them to use it so their life gets better.
Welcome to Foreign Influence. Today we've got Dr. Lillian Nejad, and she's going to share with us some exciting news. Hi Lillian.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
How do you like this space? Bentley Library.
Gorgeous, actually, and it's been a really long time since I've been to the library. It's nice to see the space, and also so many people are here as well.
Lillian, there has been so much excitement about the launch of your app, Contain Your Brain. Tell us about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, we launched it almost 2 weeks ago. It is an app to help people with worry. It's based on a strategy that I've been telling my clients about for years. In fact, it's a strategy that was started to be researched in the 80s. It's usually called worry time. I started calling it Contain Your Brain several years ago because I just think that's catchier and it kind of encapsulates what it actually is.
It does. I love the name.
Oh, thank you so much. It really is about setting aside time and a place to worry rather than letting your worries kind of run your life all day. What it requires people to do is to actually set aside about half an hour a day and pick a place, usually in their home, where they can process their worries. And if a worry pops into your head during the day, then the old school way was you write it down on a piece of paper and then you put it into a container like a jar or a box, and then you take out that box in your worry time, in your worry place, and you process your worries. But as I was telling a client about this strategy one day, it dawned on me that it just needed to be modernized, and a lot of people aren't carrying around pieces of paper.
No, but everyone's got their phone.
But everyone's got their phone. So we thought maybe this would be a much better strategy and easier to implement for my clients if it was an app. And then I asked somebody who was in the digital area whether this was a good idea or not, and he thought it was a really good idea. So I partnered with a digital designer, and we worked on it for 14 months. And it's done.
Yeah, 14 months. That's how long it took.
Yeah,
there is so much goes into it.
There is a lot that goes into it. It was really good to have my partner Brenton Cannizzaro on board because he understands the tech industry and what is necessary to kind of get something like this across. So he helped me with the specifications, with the design, the flow, making sure that it was intuitive and simple and easy to use. And then I provided the clinical kind of content for it.
Yeah.
And I think we've come up with something that is even more than what we were expecting, because it's not just about setting a time and a place.
Yeah.
It actually helps people process their worries when they're in worry time.
I like that. I liked how there is a section where you put your worries in, and then you made it possible for people to understand, is it solvable, to tick off, is it solvable, is it unsolvable, or what needs to be done?
Yes, exactly. So there are 3 categories we get people to sort their worries in. One is solvable, as you said. So those are the things that have a solution and you can problem solve. And then unsolvable, which many of our worries are.
Yeah.
And then we give people tips on how to manage with unsolvable worries through acceptance practices like mindfulness and self-care and things like that. And then there's a 3rd category, which is solved, because the research shows that about 90% of our worries actually never happen. So by the time you get to your worry time, you might find that a number of them have either solved themselves or they didn't happen. And you can kind of reflect on how much time you're actually spending on worries like these.
That's great. That's a really good idea.
Contain Your Brain is a simple app that will change the way you worry. It's based on a psychological strategy that I've been recommending to my clients for years who have anxiety and worry. One of the things in terms of creating this app that's been really surprising is that not a lot of people actually know about this strategy. So I really do hope that this helps with that. Not only does this practice help you eventually worry less, it also reduces your overall anxiety and it helps you sleep better as well. So it's a simple strategy, but it can have a significant impact.
The other thing about our app that I think is really helpful and important, especially these days, is security. I think, when you're writing your worries down, you can be worried about privacy, and we don't want people to worry about something else. And so what we've done is we've made the app really secure in terms of we don't collect anybody's data, so we don't even have people's names. There's no user accounts. Once it's downloaded on your phone, it's yours. It's only on your phone, and we also have the app password protected or face recognition or fingerprint or a passcode to keep it secure as well, so that you know that whatever you put in there is for your eyes only.
Yeah, well, this is very, very important, especially with what's been happening lately. Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's
so,
a good point to remember.
When you're wanting someone to go on kind of a path towards positive change, the most important thing is for them to feel safe. So we're less interested in collecting data for monetary issues. We actually just want them to use it so their life gets better.
Your app has been released for only 2 weeks, but you've had a lot of support. I've heard some really big company have taken your app on board for all of their employees.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. At the launch, we had a lot of support, but even before the launch, a fantastic company called Retail Prodigy Group decided that they wanted to gift the app to all of their employees.
This is massive.
Yeah, and they have about 1,000 employees. And it was really, they just thought of it as, a value add to what they were already doing in the well-being space for their employees, and they could see the benefits of, who they call them teammates, their teammates, worrying less, because it just means that, one, they'd feel better, but also they're more focused and they can concentrate better, so they're more productive at work as well.
Very clever.
Workplaces. We really think that this app can help workplaces support the mental health and well-being of their workforce. It's worriers in general. Even if you're not a worrier all the time, there are sometimes times in your life where your worries get on top of you, so this strategy can be helpful for those times as well.
At what point of your life did you decide to become a psychologist?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story. I think I had envisioned being a lawyer to start with.
Okay.
I think I have a brain for law. I can memorize lots of facts. I like to read. But when I went to university, I just had some really fantastic psychology professors. And I went to do a research project overseas in the UK. And I think it was during that project and studying students and doing the research and seeing the life of my professors as well, what the lifestyle was like, it really motivated me and kind of changed my direction towards psychology.
What do you mean by lifestyle?
In the US, university life is pretty special. Everyone lives on campus. It's like its own community. I went to a beautiful university called Emory University, and I had some incredible professors, Dr. Marshall Duke, Dr. David Edwards. I still keep in touch with them.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, so they're very inspiring and passionate about what they do. But I think that the variety that psychology offered and the quality of life really appealed to me.
All right, well, we take the lifestyle, yep. What other aspects attracted you to the field of psychology?
When I actually moved here and did my postgraduate education, what I discovered was that it wasn't doing research and being an academic that made me feel inspired. It was more working with people directly and helping them directly, dealing with, a variety of mental health issues. So I actually switched gears, and psychology is good for that. There's so many different things you can do in the field. And when I was in school and I did my various placements and worked with various people, I really just discovered that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the clinical work. So I ended up working in public mental health for many years. Probably about 10 years, I decided I was going to try academic life and see if, if I was missing out on something. And then I went to work at Monash University for several years. And as much as I liked teaching and developing other psychologists, I really did miss working with people directly. So I went back to public mental health and I worked there for more years.
You like having that impact on people.
Yeah,
obviously.
I think that was
seeing
one thing.
that the effect that the sessions with them have.
I think it's such a privilege, like having someone, first of all, trust you to tell you the things that are difficult to tell other people, and also just seeing the process of change. As a psychologist, you really learn that no matter what's going on in your life or somebody's life, no matter what's happened in the past, no matter what trauma someone's experienced, that their lives can be better. And to be able to witness that is really powerful.
May I ask you, I hope it's not too confidential, may I ask you, what are the presenting issues that you see the most?
Well, it's changed over time. So in public mental health, it was people with more severe end issues. I was working in inpatient psychiatric wards and on crisis assessment teams. So I would see people in the acute stages of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder or severe depression or severe anxiety disorders. As I moved into private practice, in private practice, the clients are slightly different. They're not in the acute stage. So I do tend to see people who have anxiety issues still, people who experience problems with their mood. So they might feel depressed. They might experience burnout from working too hard and not taking care of themselves. Sometimes sleeping problems is often a part of what people present with. And sometimes, substance use and abuse can be part of what people present with too. There can still be some complexity with what you see, but it does tend to be more around the more common issues in our society, which are anxiety and depression.
In addition to being a practicing psychologist, you've made other contributions in the field. Please tell us about them.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Oh, look, in the last few years, in addition to the app that we already spoke about, I've been working on some other projects. So I started a business called Skills for Life because I realized that over the 20 years that I've been working as a psychologist, I have so much material that I've created over the years to help my clients understand and practice different skills and strategies that help them with their mental health and their well-being. And I just thought, why should I be sitting on it when it potentially could help more people? Not everyone wants to see a psychologist or even needs to, but the skills and strategies would still be helpful for people to know about. So I started creating online courses with these skills and strategies embedded in them so that more people had access to kind of affordable psychological knowledge and information. So that's one thing.
Incredible.
The other thing that I've been really passionate about is workplace mental health, particularly the industries that were really kind of decimated during the pandemic. Entertainment comes to mind, hospitality. In hospitality, I just released a review paper on mental health issues in hospitality, just to assist the industry to start thinking about what they can do to promote well-being and mental health better within that industry and to respond better to mental health issues that occur in that industry.
This is so important.
Yeah, and I think it's really important in every industry. Started with hospitality, but I think it's really important to kind of understand what specifically are the issues within specific industries, rather than having this kind of generic everyone is the same approach and everyone has the same issues. It's actually not the case. Every industry is different and they have different stress and pain points. And it's really helpful to know what those are, because then you can put things in place that actually target the problems that they actually have. So I think that it's another project that I really feel would be helpful to continue. And I'm working with someone to develop a mental health platform for people in the hospitality industry. So I hope that does
something
actually
else
help
to look
people
forward to
with.
for us to see from you.
Yeah, so that's
And-
something that keeps me very busy.
Yeah. And your book?
Yeah, I've written a couple of books over the years. They seem to coincide with when my children were born. So the first book I wrote was, I think, when I was pregnant with my first child. I co-wrote it with another psychologist, and it's called Treating Stress and Anxiety, A Practitioner's Guide to Evidence-Based Approaches. It's really aimed at clinicians, but it has a lot of handouts for clinicians to impart to their clients who they're helping with stress and anxiety. And at the same time as we released that book, we also released a CD of relaxation exercises that people could use to lower their anxiety and stress.
Like relaxation techniques.
Exactly. And then I think it was 10 years later that I wrote my second book. I think I was busy with the kids for 10 years,
Yes.
and then I was like, oh, I might write again.
Understandable, yes.
And that one was called Life Blockers, the sleep edition. So the idea was life blockers, meaning there are many things that are obstacles in our life, and not getting enough sleep is one of them.
Yeah.
So I had written a lot of material for helping people with insomnia, so I thought I'd start with that.
If you haven't had a good sleep, you simply cannot function.
Yeah, exactly. And the research shows that it is so important for your health, physical health, emotional health, cognitive health, behavioral health. If you're not getting enough sleep, it does take its toll. If people have trouble with insomnia, more than just once in a while, because I think all of us lose sleep once in a while.
Especially before Christmas. We're all waiting what Santa's going to bring.
Exactly. We've got a lot of worries on our mind, a lot of things to get done. So there are lots of really helpful evidence-based tips and tricks to help with insomnia. And also the book includes, if you have tried everything, like what can you do? Like who do you need to see to kind of figure out what's going on and to get help?
If you think about when you just arrived in Australia and now that a few years have passed, do you notice the difference how many people actually seek help from a psychologist? Because I remember when I arrived in Australia, back then it seemed like almost that it's a severe problem that you have if you're seeing somebody.
Yeah.
And now when I interact with my friends or I interact with all sorts of different people, it's more almost like a life coach, lifestyle coach.
I think it is absolutely true that people are much more open to getting help. And that might be from a psychologist, it might be from a social worker, another mental health professional, or a coach like you were saying. And I think that's great. I think that the stigma has lifted a little bit on asking for help, telling people that you're not okay, talking about anxiety and depression. We definitely have a way to go, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's definitely people out there who aren't asking for the help that they
Yeah.
need. But it's certainly gotten better over the last 20 years. And I've definitely seen the demographics change over time, too. I think that there's a lot more men who are willing to come in now.
Let's talk a little bit about your personal life. Please share with us your family history.
Well, that's a big question. My family is from Iran originally. Both my parents were born there. They moved to the U.S. in the very early 70s. My dad is a surgeon and my mother was a nurse, and they actually met in the hospital in Iran. One of the things that they had in common was that they liked the idea of living in the U.S. and seeing what opportunities were there. And my father had already done his residency in the U.S., so he was already familiar with it. And he asked my mother, is that something you're interested in? And she said, absolutely. So they flew over. I was born about a year after that. And they made a life for themselves. So we lived in a small town for the first 9 years in Dover, Delaware, the second smallest state. It's actually where Joe Biden is from. And I think he was a senator all the way back then. Yeah, it was like what you think of as an idyllic kind of small town riding your bikes every day, you know, playing with the neighborhood kids.
Were there a lot of Persian
No,
people around you?
actually, no,
Yeah.
that's it wasn't quite multicultural. That's true. I suppose we had a lot of different religions around us, but not a lot of cultures necessarily. And I still see people when I go back to the States that are from that time in my life. Then we moved to the DC area, which is a much more kind of cosmopolitan area. You know, again, a great place to grow up. You know, went to a lovely high school, and then I moved to Atlanta, where I went to Emory for 4
college.
years. Yes. And then after college, I went on a European vacation, or holiday, as they say in Australia. And I happened to meet this Australian man somehow. About a year after that, or a little over a year after that, I ended up living in Australia.
Wow, what
Yeah.
a journey. What were your impressions of Australia?
You know, it's really interesting because I don't think Americans really had a good idea of what it was to live in Australia. You know, we were just exposed to Crocodile Dundee, Olivia Newton-John.
Kangaroos hopping everywhere.
Way. So yeah, and that's, I guess, maybe the way that Australia marketed itself as well overseas. When I landed here for the first time, it was in the early 90s, and I was actually really surprised by how multicultural it was. In fact, I wasn't expecting people to look like me. I was expecting them to look like you. All blonde hair, blue eyes, Olivia Newton-John's everywhere. Not necessarily cosmopolitan, not a big city. There's a big Greek and Italian population. My husband is Greek, was exposed to kind of a new culture in Australia as well, which was fantastic. And it really helped kind of make my decision to pursue my postgraduate education in this country instead of pursuing it in the U.S.
With such a rich cultural background, what traditions do you follow in your family?
We're not a religious family so much, but we really do value the traditions that come from the Greek culture, the Iranian culture, and the American and Australian one as well. So my kids, I joke that our kids are Iranian, Greek, Australian Americans, sometimes in different orders. We have Iranian New Year, which is the first day of spring, which I think is the perfect time to have New
Lovely,
Year, you know,
yes.
when everything is
Rejuvenated.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, we do Greek Easter. We have also a big Greek feast that I'm looking forward to at Christmas time. We do Thanksgiving,
Yes.
which is fabulous. My husband likes to cook, so he makes the turkey and we feast on that. And it's such a beautiful holiday, you know, just to be grateful and thankful for what you have, to be able to commemorate that every year, I think is just one of my favorite holidays. And then even just the, not necessarily holiday traditions, but just the things that I loved growing up with in the U.S., like I love American football, and my son and I are obsessed. And we're always, you know, talking about football and the different players, and now he knows he's only 13, but he knows way more than me now, which I love. In terms of Australian sports, I think you know that I'm a big tennis fan, and I pretty much live at the Australian or Melbourne Tennis Centre for every Australian Grand
You have
Slam
not
tournament.
missed a single one of Australian Open since
I moved here. Yeah, so I've been here since mid-1994,
Yeah.
and I went for the first time in 95, and I haven't missed one since.
I enjoy going there together with you. I love your commentary, and you're very passionate about photography because you
Yeah.
take amazing pictures of tennis players.
I do love taking my tennis player pictures, and I try to pretend that I'm a sports photographer, which is quite funny. But I've always taken lots of photos, to the point where my daughter, when she was a baby, I took so many pictures of her that she thought her name was Look at Me. I realized one day she doesn't know her name. She thinks her name is Look at Me.
Lillian, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. All the best with Contain Your Brain app.
Oh, thank you so much.
I
It's been a
think
pleasure.
everyone should download that on your phone. And we're looking forward to reading more of your books.
Oh, I hope to have another one, and I'm thinking about writing one about worry. So hopefully,
Great topic.
I've said it now, so
Yes.
I'm going to have to do it. But I hope to have something for people next year to read.